Codewars challenge. This one's a level 7 Caillou. We're doing it in Python and it's called Upturn Numerical Triangle. There'll be a link to the challenge in the show notes if you want to try it out before watching the video. Please subscribe. That helps keep me going and helps keep you informed every time I got a new video up. So with that, let's get started. So basically, we're going to have a function that takes a positive integer, and we need to generate a triangle from that number. So if we have, if the number 5 is passed in, then we're going to have a triangle of 5 rows where the largest number is at the bottom. Okay. So let's kind of go over here and play around with it. So I'm going to grab one of the test cases here. So we'll start with 12 as our number, and then we'll have our expected results over here. So I've kind of pulled them over already. So if I have the number 12 and we have the expected here, we can print expected. Okay. So I know I'm going to be generating a string, and that's what I'm going to start out with. So I'm going to call it the triangle, and it'll be an empty string. Okay. Now what I want to do is for each row, I'm going to do a for loop, 1 to the number given. And so we could do that right now. So we'll say, row is 1. And then once we have that working, we can just for loop on that row variable right there. Okay. So what we want to do is, first off, let's take the number. So I'll say, let's turn it into a string. So we'll have row. So notice it's in a list of 1 string in there. And this is kind of a cool Python trick. But if I were to multiply basically a list of something, I will repeat it that many times. So this is kind of a cool trick to know about. The next thing we need to know is that each number is separated by a space. So what I'm going to do is take this list of strings and join them back together into one string. So to do that in Python, we're going to join them together with an empty space. So that's what the string is here. And so in Python, we call string.join, and then we pass in our list. Okay. So now we've got our row separated by spaces here. Okay. So at the very end, so let's go ahead and start our for loop here, and we can kind of look through our triangle and see if we get everything working as expected. So we're going to go for row in range, start at 1, go up to the number. We have to include the number, so you've got to go in plus 1 here. And so we'll shift that to the right, and we'll say triangle plus equals the row. And then let's print the triangle to kind of see what all needs to be added here, because it's not going to be exactly what we expect. Okay. So clearly we've got a few things we need to do here. So the easiest one is we need to have a line break. Okay. So I'm going to add a line break at the very end here. All right. So that breaks up our string here into some line breaks. I need to add the triangle into this cell so that it starts over every single time. Okay, cool. All right, so we've got our numbers here being added. The next thing we need to know is that I need to have, I'm having the same number of digits for each row, okay? So what I want to do is let's think about what the math is here. So I have 12 as my number. I have 12 ones in the first row. I have 11 twos in the second row, 10 threes, 9 fours, so on and so forth. So the pattern here is we're taking the number, okay? So in this case, 12. If I subtract 12 minus 1, I get 11. And if I add 1 back, I get 12. If I take 12 minus 2, that gives me 10. If I add 1 back, I get 11, okay? So what we need to do over here is we want to multiply the number minus the row plus 1, okay? So now we're getting it to angle down, okay? The next thing we need to do is when we have double-digit rows, like 10, 11, 12, notice here what they do is they just have the single digit here, okay? So what we can do here is if we take the number, so the row in this case, if we take the row, and if we mod 10, okay, we're going to get the remainder back. So notice, for example, if I say, 12 mod 10, That gives me 2. So it's going to give you the remainder after you divide 12 by 10. Okay. So over here, we'll have row mod 10, and that'll get me down to the single digits. Okay. Now the last thing I need to do is center each of these rows. Okay. So what we can do is, it's kind of subtle here, but they have some spaces here. So notice the first row has 1 space, second row has 2 spaces, third row has 3 spaces, fourth row has 4 spaces, so on and so forth, right? So what we can do over here at the beginning is we can add a number of spaces times the row number, and then add the rest of that string. So this is a super long string to kind of generate our row, but now at least they center, okay? Now, one last thing here, and it's kind of subtle, and so let's go ahead and run this in Codewars and kind of see what we get back here. So I'm going to move this for loop over, and at the end here, I'll return the triangle. Okay. So if we test this out, I'm going to have none of the tests are going to pass, and it's super subtle, and it took me a while to kind of figure this one out. But I have a trailing line break on my string, so that last row has a line break, and it's not the same as what's expected here because there's no line break at the end. Okay, so I think what I want to do here is we're going to change this up a bit. We're going to turn it into a string eventually, but what I'm going to do is start it off as a list. Okay, and over here, instead of plus equals, I'm going to append all of this. Okay, we're going to get rid of the line break. Okay, so now if you look at your triangle, it's every row with all the appropriate spaces, but now we need to join them together into a string. So what I'm going to do is if we join each of these with a line break, so we're going to do \n here dot join, and then I add my triangle, which was a list. Right now it's back to this, and I get rid of that trailing line break here. So just the tests are kind of giving us some ideas in how to change up our code a bit here. So let's have that as an array or as a list here, and then we'll dot append. Okay, so we'll wrap that in parentheses and append that. And then here, because it's a list, we need to turn it back into a string. We're going to do \n dot join triangle. And now when we test that out, oh, still not working. Oh, I see, because we have some extra line breaks here. I need to get rid of that. I'm still adding that line break in my function over here. So we test that out. Okay, now everything's looking good. And we got that to pass. Nice job, y'all.